Hi, my name is Andy, and welcome to this week's Mark IV Battle Report on Tried and True. Erica's feeling a little sick this week, so instead of her serenading you, you get me. I'd like to say we appreciate a friend of ours, Jimmy, for donating most of the 3D swamp terrain you'll see in today's game. Okay, now for the stuff she said I have to say. If you enjoy our content, please consider subscribing to the channel and keep up to date on our Bat Rep and podcast releases. If you would like to support the channel directly, a link to our Patreon can be found in the description below. Our match today was recorded using the October 2022 Mark IV Beta rule set using the Invasion scenario. Defending their home swamplands against a spirited Signarin incursion is a returning player, the appropriately named Gatorman Pete. He has a 75-point Legacy Prime army of Blindwater congregation led by Barnabas II. Pete, please explain your list and thoughts going into today's match.
Hey everyone, pleasure to be back. So I'm playing Barnabas, Lord of Blood, also known as Barney II. Now, Barney II underwent two significant changes from Mark III. First of all, corpses now give him armor as well as strength, and his bone shakers are now solos. Both of these go a long way to making him a blast to play on the field. He has his normal signature spell, Blackest Night. It reduces the attack rolls of all enemies within 10 inches of him, so he really likes to bring some higher defense stuff, which means about 13 for Gatorman. So I've got a Wrestler, a Walker, which is now a great arc node with telemetry as an animus, a Bone Swarm. I've got a unit of Posse and a couple Throlls, along with Captain Crawtooth, who underwent a significant buff. He now has a 10-inch no knockdown, which is pretty good. Quack and Gub, who have that double Enliven. Enliven, likewise, now very good because free strikes aren't a thing. So they get hit, they walk away. And then we have Underchief Meyer with a ranged piece, his Spitter. Meyer also underwent a change. His signature spell now, instead of granting Hunter and the ability to ignore cover, grants Prowl. So I can get some Stealth Gators in there. I can get a Stealth Heavy. Really, the sky is the limit. It's a pretty fun list. And I'm looking forward to seeing how it does into Kraye. So as far as command cards go, I brought Breakthrough, which seems very good on pretty much everybody. Careful Reconnaissance, because that Spot Pathfinder seems pretty good since I didn't bring Witch Doctor for that Ghostly. Hit and Run, because who doesn't like some Repo? Power Swell, because Barnabas loves to do some work himself. And then I'm a big fan of the Arcane Forces card, because Barnabas does have Hunter's Mark, so an extra 5 inches on that, if he doesn't have his Arc node available at the time, seems to be a pretty good choice for him.
Exploring the swamplands to capture what I'm sure is very important territory for Signar is returning friend of the channel, Rick. He's played a 75-point Legacy Prime army of Signar's first army, led by Captain Jeremiah Kraye. Please discuss your list composition and strategy going into today's match.
Hey guys, so thanks for having me back again. Just like we said, playing Captain Jeremiah Kraye today. Had a couple minor changes to him, specifically with Iron Horse. And his spell list definitely got +2 speed now with Reposition 5 and the Pathfinder ability. So they're not technically considered cavalry anymore, but I think it's a very welcome change. We also gained access to Pincushion now, so there's a lot of nice ranged options for Kraye moving forward. In Kraye's list today, I have 2 Cyclones, an Ironclad, 2 Hunters, and 2 Minutemen, accompanied with a Squire and a unit of Combat Engineers. Cyclones went over a little bit of a change in having Volume Fire added to their guns, so now they are getting increased rat and damage depending on the base size that they're shooting, which stacks really well with Pincushion. Minutemen are effectively the same, losing out on Flak Field in the Mark IV change, followed by the Hunter, who's basically the same, but did lose extended control range. Engineers are there to make sure I can keep up on my focus, and the Squire is obviously being there to be our little Squire and doing what he's got to do. For command cards today, I took Arcane Forces to help extend the range of Pincushion as needed. Blessing of the Gods, always need to deal with that boosts in armor defenses. Breakthrough, again, great on everything, just to make sure the stuff can stay out of melee if it needs to keep shooting. Infiltration, really worried about getting shot at, so making sure that doesn't occur. And then having a pretty heavy Jack list, Old Faithful is always good.
Can the Lord of Blood with his posse and warbeast repel the advancing threat led by Kraye and his many, many guns? Let's see what happens.
All right, here we go. So Rick won the roll-off, so he got to pick to go first, which, as somebody looking down Kraye's gun, is very scary for me. Absolutely. On the plus side, if I had won, I actually planned on picking side, because this side with the all those obstructions, we've got the 2 huts there, a nice wall, a couple forests for that prowl I can hand out, and this little platform we have with the flag just seems like a fun thing to play around.
Yep. So lots of obstructions against my guns and stuff like that. So moving up here into that first turn for me here for Kraye, we kind of started off in just talking about all the extra movement that I would get from my jacks and things like that, and seeing how far everybody can move. I think when we first started doing this, it actually, even after talking about it, it was way farther than what we actually were expecting.
I think it's like 19 inches, right? Because they trample 9, jump 5, and then repo 5.
Well, so the Minutemen are speed 6, go to 8 because of Kraye, jump 5, and then can repo 5. So I think it comes out that if I just walk them in a straight line, it's 28 inches.
Jesus.
After starting on my deployment line. So it's 28 inches up the board on turn 1. But I didn't want to be in charge range on turn 1. So they actually, if you saw the repo happen, they actually backed up a little bit. But having speed, speed 7 heavies in the Centurions and the Ironclad is a huge deal. Because, I mean, you're just seeing right there, they trample 7, 8, 9, 10 inches forward, and then repo 5. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, 2 minutes into the game, that Minuteman is knocking on the door of the hut.
Oh yeah, he's just saying, hi, hello. Kraye moves up. I'm pretty sure I just sat on all my focus. There's nothing I was going to do this turn with anything he has. Most of his spell list is just pretty offensive outside of Return Fire. Return Fire did not feel needed in this game, considering there was basically 1 gun on your side of the board in the turtle. Moving up the hunters, getting them into position to kind of flank around and forward and getting some pot shots off in the next turn. Repoing myself up into that forest because I was like, what else am I going to do? I quickly found out that because we were playing with flags, I only had the Squire to score my own. So he had to basically just move up over there and consider him outside of Kraye's control area for the game as far as giving him the buffs that it would normally give. So he got to sit over there. My mechanics ended up a little bit far forward to ensure that the next turn I can give out all that focus.
He's so well protected back there. It's going to take me a while if I end up going for that Squire.
Oh, absolutely.
So with you so far up the board, I start my turn by figuring out where these danger zones are, because you've got all these gun angles, and you know that heavy on the bottom there can't quite see behind the palm tree, but one of them is an Ironclad, and that that melee beast is pretty scary. You know, I have my Ironback Spitter there, has Carapace. Ever since a couple editions ago, they gave him that onto his rule set. So a lot of your jacks don't really scare him, but he is on the same side as that Ironclad. So that is one of my first priorities to take out.
Yes, absolutely.
But I start my turn by getting one of my Bone Shaker solos. That's one of Barnabas's things. Used to be part of a unit with him. Up on that flag, and try to get a Throlg there to force you to deal with it. Otherwise, he puts out a disruption. Now, as these Bone Shakers die, you know, he can just make him every turn. Every maintenance phase, he gets to spend corpses and put out up to 3 Bone Shakers. And since I have the Chili Pot back there, I can just give Barnabas corpses all game and just keep making solos, which is a really nice change.
It was super annoying.
So I start putting out some of my animi, my Bone Swarm up there, pops his animus and ends up trampling forward, which he really didn't need to do because you can actually animus and run now. Actually, I do think I run him because he doesn't go that full distance. In retrospect, I don't know why I did Swarm. Swarm gives concealment, which he has in the forest anyway, but it also provides a 2-inch bubble of living models losing 2 to hit. But your jacks are not living.
It's super relevant. Don't cut yourself short.
If I didn't do it, I would have just ended up riling him anyway, because I did need the focus. So Barnabas is going. Barnabas pops his Execration of Blackest Night. Now just Blackest Night. They cut a couple words off it. That is that 10-inch bubble where all enemies lose 2 to their attack rolls. He's base defense 13, so it makes him a 15, which is pretty good. If he can get behind one of those obstructions, he's sitting at an effective 19 on your Cyclones because they are range 10. So he just kind of walks right up and says, come at me. He feels safe. Defense 19, armor maybe 20. It is a little risky because I haven't actually put corpses on him yet. I don't know if that chili pot is going to roll a 1 on its D3 or a 3 on its D3. So he could only be armor 17, which might be trouble with that pincushion, but he could be an armor 20. My turtle goes up, tries to get right out of that attack range. He pops Counterblast just in case you do get within 5 inches. He can pop either a ranged attack or melee. And then I'm figuring out, making sure he's still close to his lesser warlock there, Meyer. My Blindwalker walks up. The Blindwalker, in addition to being a shield guard, which is very nice, measuring that 3, seeing what's in his range, he went from being, in 3rd edition, having an Animus that turned him into an Arc Node, to now just being an Arc Node. And his Animus now gives him telemetry. So he's a pretty good beast at the moment.
I feel like that's a welcome change for him.
It is. It was kind of an order of activations problem. He always had to go first to be an Arc Node, which isn't something that you always want to do. I've got Quack and Gub, the Croak Sorcerers there. It's one frog with a second frog coming out of his stomach. He pops out 2 enlivens, so if my beasts get hit, they can move. Meyer shifts around a bit. He puts Prowl on these gators who run up into their little forest there. It gives them Prowl and Pathfinder. So now I've got a stealth posse. So they're safe from being charged, but they are going to have to worry about that Minuteman there. The Throg moves up to support them. If the Minuteman goes in, he's going to disrupt it next turn. Then I move one of my Bone Shakers around, one of those free solos. Crawtooth with his 10-inch no knockdown on any mob tagged with Gatorman, which is the posse. It's all my beasts. It's Barnabas, even though he's already steady, so that doesn't really do anything to him. But it does not work on the Throgs. The Throgs won't have that no knockdown tough. And back to you.
Alrighty. So here we go. We're making sure control ranges are still good, because pre-measuring is a thing. Empower everybody up. Going through a kind of calculation process of where do I want some of my focus. There's still definitely a lot of thought process because of how far forward the Minutemen can get, of how I'm going to be able to use them properly this far forward, if I even want to dedicate them that far forward.
You do spend some time thinking about going for Barnabas.
I did. It's just what us dirty Signar swans do.
He did roll that big 3 on the corpses though, so he's defense 19, armor 20 right now. That's a tall order.
It's a very tall order, but I would be a lying Signar player if I didn't say that I was thinking about it, because that's just what I do. So from here, I do basically kind of start committing myself that I'm going to get at least that top Minuteman to kind of get over there into the grind. Again, just being able to walk 8 inches with a 4-inch gun, still having 12 inches of threat, non-linear, is ridiculous. On top of the fact that I can just jump and just be placed wherever I want to be placed. It's really nice that the Minutemen are also unstoppable. So just because they're getting in melees and doing all this stuff, it's not going to affect them to be keeping their performance up.
Yeah, it's a very welcome attribute on them.
Very welcome. So from here, I believe I'm going through keeping my trenchers kind of in place. There was no reason for them to move at the moment. Passing out focus with that empower ability, and then they're just kind of sit there. I think about the more that I watch these videos, the more I see that I think. I believe here I was contemplating on Kraye. If I was going to see if I can get out a pincushion. Just because I'd be able to move and then repo myself basically back into position to try to see if I can get that Blindwater. Now, in retrospect, that might have been not the right call due to how much of a kind of a buffer zone that he has back there with Barnabas next to him.
You do land the pincushion, though.
I do land the pincushion. We get the pincushion up there. Kraye takes a couple pot shots because he has a rate of fire 2 gun. And because of pincushion, I was like, why not? And I think I actually get like 1 or 2 points onto him. Because I rolled very high.
Yeah, you do, because it does trigger Enliven. Now, Enliven is not optional. The first time something with Enliven is damaged, it either needs to take the move or Enliven expires. So he backs up and just tries to keep himself safe for the turn.
Yep. So then a couple more random shots. Or I took that last shot on somebody else. Then we back up, repo into position. And I believe we move forward with our Minuteman and start getting to jump over there. Yeah, so again here we're just going to walk around the hut. Speed 8. Lights is kind of ridiculous. Especially with these guys. We do it a little bit later, but that Minuteman stays in control because it does have a 24-inch control range because it's still retained extended control. Which I love. I don't know about everybody else, but I love it.
They move so fast, they absolutely need that. Otherwise, they
absolutely need it. Yes. From here, I'm falling under contemplation of if I'm going to jump into you or if I'm just going to take some shots at the Bone Swarm. It takes several reminders to tell me that Swarm doesn't affect my my Minuteman. But I decide to go after the Throg and get him off the board because I know that they can create some issues with like the disruption or the arcane consumption.
Yeah, if you cast a spell, you take a D3 damage, I believe.
Yeah, so I don't want them to kind of be messing with Kraye and doing all that stuff, so I get the Minuteman back there and start getting some shots off into him. 2 slug guns, power 14 still feels very powerful on a light jack. Not to mention that the 2 of us decided to roll like 9s and above all game. So I think the first shot took him out.
It did. I rolled a tough check and then realized that the Throg is not actually tough. So we end up wiping him off the board and redoing that next attack.
Oh, because we took the second shot into it to make sure he died, but then we verified the no tough.
Yep, so we had to roll back and reallocate it.
Yeah. The only part I don't remember at this particular moment is if it went into the Bone Swarm or the Posse member, but I believe it was the Posse, but I think I missed anyway.
Yeah, so even though the Swarm isn't working, that Minuteman was in the Blackest Night aura, so he still had a -2, which brings him to Rat 4, is that correct?
Rat 4, but it didn't matter with 3 1s.
Yeah.
So, again, so he got repoed into the back there to get him in the flank of everything, so it turns into one of those that you can either deal with me or I'm going to come at you next turn. Again, extended control range is amazing because he's still in and causing problems.
In my deployment zone.
Yes, so from here I jump in, I go after Crawltooth because having that knockdown feels super strong for you and I didn't want you to have it. So we went after him, and I didn't do the damage that I needed. So then we just repo, again, being in that deal with me or I'll deal with you.
I believe I shield guarded it to the Blindwater.
I believe that is correct, yes. Oh, no, we did, because I definitely forgot that it was a shield guard. There's me pointing at Barnabas, going like, "Hey, cyclones can shoot him." But from here, yep, contemplation of the cyclone moving over there because there's not too many other great shots that I was looking at. I mean, the posse is stealth because of prowl, so I didn't have a decent shot to be able to get into them. And losing out on just two D3 shots in a turn doesn't feel good in the second round. So I'm definitely trying to find out where I can take shots just to start taking shots. The hunter is definitely able to just advance up to and get within the stealth range to make a random shot at that guy. This one, because then I can just repo him back into place. And again, there we are rolling like a 15 on dice.
It one-shots him. He does make his tough check.
Yes.
Crawtooth keeps
and because of the Crawtooth keeps him standing. And then there we are putting out his health and me repoing myself back into the forest. Figuring out where I'm going to put my ironclad, because again, I think that was a little bit of a misplay to not at least have him towing into it so he could see out of it. However, it ended up being okay. Hunter moves up. We're going after the other thrall. I think I need 7s to hit him. It's defense 14, right?
Mm-hmm. Or 13
so I was just like, I'm just going to go for the 7, and I did, and I was able to boost it and just kind of pop him off the board. Again, repoing farther forward, blocking that objective piece for scoring next turn. Ironclad's going to get into position to be prepared for following turn. Squire's not moving. It needs to keep that objective because he's my only solo. So, has to keep him there. And we advance forward for the Cyclone. We're just going to go ahead and take some pot shots at the Spitter. But, again, this is pretty rough shooting because of Carapace now. I do it several times over the game. I keep forgetting volume fire, so I think there was like 2 shots that I missed out on remembering that I have the +2/+2. But they ended up not overall mattering too much because of the Carapace.
Now you did tag the Spitter with a little damage, so that's second enliven triggers, and he moves himself up and kind of gets a little charge angle on your ironclad for next turn.
Yes. Yeah, and then I think because of how he was positioned in that particular point, he also then tagged some cover for himself against that first cyclone.
Base 10 to 14, not great, but not insignificant.
It's way better than 10.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So then we repo ourselves back, staying within the zone. Again, I don't want you to just be scoring on the zone against me. And we start taking those shots into the Spitter again from the other Cyclone. I believe I was just out of the Barnabas bubble, so I got to keep my rat. And I got 5 shots into your dude. I decided to kill the models over there with my dice. And
I think at one point you actually pelt Barnabas with one in the face.
I think I did, and I don't know how I do it. It's a gift, I think. But it's all those Signar days of trying to assassinate, but I just do it in real life with dice. So again, these shots are pretty insignificant. Without having the focus to do some of these shots, they're just kind of bouncing off the hide. Repo away. I don't want you to just randomly kill my jack.
All right, so we do our maintenance phase. I put out another Bone Shaker because your Minuteman did kill one that first turn. And we shuffle my focus around, get it all back. But first I try to figure out where to place that Bone Shaker, and I opt to put him near the flag. That way if this one up top dies, he can climb those ladders. Now we are using the lift rules for the ladders, so as soon as the model is within an inch of the ladder, it teleports to the top of the ladder within an inch of the top. So it is pretty easy to get up there. You don't have to sacrifice very much movement. That 1-inch buffer actually makes it a little faster than if they were just walking.
Yes, absolutely.
So I prepare for this charge that I'm going to make. I do need a hunter's mark to get out on that ironclad to do it. So we got to solve that order of operations problem, because that spitter is going to need a bone shaker on that proxy to lower his armor. He's going to need that hunter's mark to hit and not miss, and he's going to need the rage animus, either from Barnabas or the Black Hat Wrestler himself, to have the POW to actually do some work. Now, the spitter does have 3 initials. He's got a 16 and two 13s, I believe. Or, I'm sorry, 15 and 2 13s.
Yeah.
But up here, that one gator that stayed standing because of the no knockdown aura gets a charge on a Kraye. And with the new unit movement rules, we get 3 gators on him and that hunter. Now, I do land the charge attack on Kraye and take a pretty big chunk out of him.
9 points.
9 points. But gators underwent a slight change. They kept Bloodthirst, so they got the extra 2 inches versus living warrior models, or versus living models, rather. They did lose their rerolls on misses, though. Instead of being 6 with rerolls, they are just mat 7. So going for Kraye at 15 seems a little risky for me, so I opt for the safe choice, and I pump a bunch of attacks into that hunter, hoping to take it out with my 3 angry gators.
You definitely do quite a bit to him.
Yeah, they're.
I'll say that first shot there just knocked out a bunch.
They're 13s, but I think the hunter is only armor 15, right? So
it's only armor 50. It's a dice off 2.
Mm-hmm. 2 charges and 3 other 13s.
Yep.
Does some work, and I think I also take out one of these mechanics.
Yes, we did.
And I snack him. I think I gained a little bit of HP back. Now Meyer, because that spitter is attached to him, he has a focus stat of 4, he has to keep that spitter within 8 inches of him. So he's trying to do some trigonometry and get a place where if I don't land that hunter's mark, where the spitter will still be in range to force for the charge, but also will still be in range on his final landing position. So he runs up, hides under that ladder. The ladders themselves are just a placeholder for the location, and hopes that nothing survives and comes around and just stomps him next turn, because he is if the spitter is full, he will not be able to transfer to it. My crockpot there moves up, replenishes some corpses on Barney after he spit out that bone shaker first turn. Barney uses the command card Arcane Forces to get that extra 5 inches on his hunter's mark. He does land it, and we get a nice little range extension on that charge. Then Barney takes his move, and he's going to back up a little bit and take a swing, put a little damage in that Minuteman. He doesn't want to spend all his focus because he wants to keep some transfers, but he does use his reach initial to take a chunk out of it.
And it was a chunk.
Oh yeah, Mat 8, POW 18 will do something to a light, that's for sure.
Dice plus 3.
So then I have to figure out my order of operations back here, because I do want to take out those Minutemen. Now I've got my Bone Swarm there, I've got my Heavy there, I've got a Bone Shaker for that Dark Shroud. The question is what can I get on that back guy when it happens? Now I opt for the riskier play. I want to take out this closer one and then see if Crawtooth can snag that hunter back there, or that Minuteman back there. But he is only a Rat 6 on that hook that pulls him in, so we'll see how that turns out. But my Heavy walks up, doesn't have any trouble dealing with a light. It does have to
super handily.
Mm-hmm, it does have to boost on the attacks because it is only a Mat 5, but POW 15's working the light. Crawtooth comes up, hits the 11 on his hook, pulls it in. Hook does some damage, Bite does some damage. It's got a melee attack with the hook, does a little damage. And then I believe the Bone Swarm has to has to move on in and clean it up.
Yeah, I think it ended up doing like 5 damage on his first hit, and then
and then a bunch of 1s and 2s.
Yeah. Except for that last
one.
That
took a little chunk out.
Oh, and that was me showing off, saying thanks for not destroying actually anything.
So Bone Swarm works up. Bone Swarm did lose an initial in the update. He was very briefly after the update apocalypse, got 2 initials instead of 1. He's back down to 1, but I'm okay with it because he also got a lot cheaper. He's only 6 points compared to the Bowl Snapper's 5, so we have 2 very cheap light options in Blindwater right now. Quack and Gub move up to put out 2 enlivens, but I know that he is in a vulnerable position and he is going to be dead next turn, but I decide enliven on my 2 heavies is worth it to either keep them safe or just move them right on in to do some real threatening work next turn. Here comes that charge. He moves on in. He's now in melee range of the heavy and that light there. So he takes a bunch of attacks on the ironclad. Then he turns and does an attack on the hunter. Doesn't quite do as much as he wanted to. Trying to protect his friend Meyer back there. But then it comes to your mind. You remind me very graciously that you have the repair command card. What's the name of that? Old Faithful?
Old Faithful. Yeah, I had to remind you about it because I was like, if you don't kill the ironclad, it's going to be fine.
That's it for the turtle.
To destroy you.
Yep. So I do take my last buy back on the ironclad to try and finish him off.
Yep, there's the hand.
Mm-hmm. I do forget something here that may or may not have helped me. I could have taken the ranged attack as well, because you can ranged attack in melee now. They just get the engage bonus. Now it would probably miss because he's only rat 5, but because it's an AoE, it would automatically do half damage, which rage is only 2 instead of 3 now, but it does work on ranged attacks, so that would do something to that hunter.
Oh, that I did not know. That's good.
Yeah.
Alright, so here on my turn, we still go through, I believe, I know that Kraye's in danger. He's got 3 posse on him. Although it's kind of like wishy-washy to be hitting and everything, I fully believe that doesn't matter when there's nothing else over there.
Now, is Kraye's unstoppable, correct?
Kraye himself is unstoppable, yes. And he's unstoppable, has dual attack, is cavalry, pathfinder, and tough. So he has quite a few of those little icon rules. On top of being a rat 7 with the little pistol on it, so he can still take the gunshots in melee, and a mat 6 sword with a brutal charge on it. That's magical. So from here, kind of starting up, I allocate some focus. I move up the engineers, knowing that units kind of they score the circle zones, so moving them up there, giving them power to load up my cyclone with the other 2 focus that it needs to be full. And then we start kind of getting into the process of, I think Kraye is going to have to do a lot of the work here and figure out how I'm going to deal with the spitter, who is now fully in my face against a bunch of range jacks.
Now, at this point, you are ahead in points because that squire back there scored at the end of the turn.
So I was able to score and block you from scoring because my hunter was within 4 of the flag of your side. So that's where I kind of got into I need to get the engineers in there, start getting a little bit of that VP advantage, hopefully, because my goal is to get rid of the full unit of posse, which will leave that zone completely empty, minus my trenchers, which will give me that point and the squire points again. So I should go up to 3-0 as long as I don't do anything wonky to get my hunter out of the way. So still lots of conversation about exactly what I should do. I know I have the 2 attacks on the gun, the 1 attack initial because I am dual attack, and then how much focus am I going to use up without leaving Kraye in danger again? So from here, I talk about how the hunter is out of range to get the original power up. So, but Kraye's feat, which will allow me to give stealth to my battle group while within control, and it is an aura. So if I move over, it'll get the hunter in it. And then whenever one of my battle group destroys a model, I can allocate a focus to a jack within the battle group. And it is not once per turn. So if I kill 3 different models, I can put 3 focus out, et cetera, et cetera. So from here, Kraye is activating. He's starting to make his attacks on the posse. It's time for him to get some work in there. I believe I don't really have all that much trouble hitting overall. I think I start with the guns, and they were power 11. Boosting the shots. Again, trying to kill the models with my dice instead of figurative.
The dice have pistol on their card.
Oh, yes, they do. Trying to focus on the one that has the damage on it, I believe, because I know that I can get rid of him, because he only had 3 health at that point from snacking?
Yeah, he was on his last legs after that knockdown tough he had.
Yeah, and then these guys are... Yeah, so we got rid of the first one. Feet still underway. Contemplating.
Yeah, because you do need to move before they die if you want that focus on the hunter. I think.
Yes. The nice thing for me is because I have repo, so I can do what Kraye needs to do and then repo myself, and I kind of just pulled myself around the cyclone so that I can make sure that the hunter is in range. So now when the cyclone does its job and hopefully deals with the other 2 posse, I can get that focus out on that hunter. So here it goes. The cyclone turns over. We are making sure to hopefully stay out of the range of Barnabas. We spin up our shots. I got 4 on that one, I believe, if I just looked at that right again. And we start taking the shots into these guys. And then, again, under volume fire, I don't remember if I remembered it for these shots because these guys are medium bases, so I do get the +1/+1. But the cyclone is pretty handily able to deal with the first one, and then this last one is the one that was actually damaged, and we were able to deal with him. So then from there, I referenced the feat to make sure that I could do it again, which I could. So now my hunter has 2 focus on him. And then I actually did that without needing any focus. So the cyclone got to finish with 3 focus sitting on him. Again, repoing him out of the way so he just doesn't get charged by Barnabas. Now from here, I know that my hunter's not going to be able to deal with that spitter. So I move him back here, and then from here, so I played the Unstoppable card. So I'm able to get back there. And you graciously told me, "Oh, my guy's back here," and I was like, "Who?" So I had to look around.
I think you were trying to go for the chili pot, and the hunter turns.
I was.
Meyer is just right in his face.
And just right. So he's sitting there, and so I boost up the axe, and I annihilate him.
And then we spend 5 minutes trying to look up the Wild War Beast rules. All right, so back from the break. So Wild Warbeast in the current edition is the same as inert on a Warjack, which means they can't activate at all, and they just sit there. Early 3rd edition, a Wild Warbeast could still move, but they kept that change. They're basically just inert. So shooting Meyer in the head took care of that spitter.
I did all of that. It was a welcome rule to find that I now didn't have to worry about the jack that ignored a lot of my ranged options. So from here, I was using the Cyclone to go after a bunch of the solos, got the little Enliven dude dead. I believe we took a couple more pot shots. It's either that or I just decided to repo out of the way. Contemplating. Oh, look at that 666 over there. All right, yep, repo right out of the way. keep the focus allocated everywhere because we had a really good use for all of it this turn. And I believe we were just looking at the victory points, setting all that up, and we just dive right into your next turn.
Ooh, 0-3, scary position for me.
I love it. I'm doing great.
Yeah, I gotta score some points somehow. I need to try to figure out a plan to deal with that squire. I was going to use my spitter, walk into that forest and shoot it.
Not today.
That's no longer an option. Now, I can reactivate the spitter. If I can get Barnabas next to it and spend a focus, that spitter joins his battle group. But it's so far off on that flank, and there's really no cover there. I would have to expose Barnabas to some retribution and take 2 turns to do it. So that's not really an option that's on the table for me. So I decide to use the range attack on my pot. Now, I actually have to apologize to you here, Rick. We misplayed this. The pot does not pull in like Crawtooth or the Swamp Horror all the way. It's actually only supposed to do a D6.
Oh.
Yeah, so this actually shouldn't have gone down the way it does.
Gotcha.
So Crawtooth would not have gotten this charge off if we had paid attention.
Gotcha. So obligatory irreparable game state.
Yeah, irreparable game state
from the local Signar player.
Everything's ruined.
All it's ruined. Completely different game. Completely ruined.
Yep. My Bone Shaker does come on down. Applies that Dark Shroud. Gets a hit onto him.
I tell you what, those little Dark Shroud solos. Those little Dark Shroud solos do work. They are amazing.
It's pretty good. At least we can rest easy to know that he could have still made that move if the hunter hadn't gone that whole distance.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't think anything changed on that per se, but it's nice to know that the rule's just a smidge different.
So Crawtooth goes up, tries to score that flag now that it's not being contested. Now over on this front half, I've only got a couple things that can score this circle zone, because it's units. So I've got my Gator Posse, which is dead. My Chili Pot, which is a unit, is there in the back. So it pretty much leaves me with Barnabas. So he's trying to figure out how he can do some work and also be in that zone and also not be dead. He is still sitting at armor 20, but if he has to move out of that cover, defense 15 probably isn't going to do everything he wants.
Nah, defense 15 is pretty simple for me to deal with, I think.
Now Barnabas opts to kind of hang back and sling a couple spells. His attack spell isn't that great, but it is a POW 14 and has some AoE damage. So he's hoping to either get closer or move his arc node up and sling one of those spells. The troubling part is that your mechanics there are tough.
Yes.
So I'm hoping that they just don't make those tough rolls. So we set it up. I activate my arc node here, my Blindwater, or actually my Bone Swarm, my Bone Shaker rather.
Got to keep that armor debuff out there.
Oh yeah, it's Dark Shroud went from being melee range to being 2-inch.
Super good.
Yep, since the Bone Shaker only has a 1-inch, he can apply that Dark Shroud without actually giving the melee bonus to this guy against ranged attacks.
Yep.
So the Blindwater moves up. He uses his Animus to grant telemetry and give that +2 bonus to Barney's attack roll. So rolling with that Arcane 9, he shoots his spell. He does hit. So he gets the initial damage. Your guy makes his tough check, though.
Yes, he does.
Blast damage kills the other guy, who does not make it. But I need that dude dead, because I am 0-3.
Yep.
So I spend my focus rather than putting up my attack debuff in that aura. I have to spend that 3 focus to cast a second spell.
Yep. And
I'm just saying my Wrestler there moves up, tries to engage your guys.
Yep, because we also the Cyclone there, that's the second one next to Kraye. I did not position him to be in the zone in any capacity. We had a conversation about this, and so that was kind of pretty big misplay on my part, because then at least I could be contesting it.
It's hard to tell in the video, but he is off that mat just barely.
Yep, and right there, I did decide to trigger my admonition that I did have up the turn prior to kind of get out of the way. Here we do a little bit of back and forth because you played the reposition card, but then we were like, oh wait, he ran.
He ran, yeah. He can't actually do that, so we have to walk that back in a minute.
Yeah.
My Bone Shaker does move up and contest that flag from your squire. We walk that Black-Eyed Wrestler move back. So I believe he is not actually engaging your Cyclone at the moment.
No, I don't think, because I think because they're both only 1, so they did not have any actual link with each other, which again I am wonderfully happy with.
Yeah, so I managed to score 2 and keep you from scoring, so 2-3 is much safer.
Yes. So from here, we're obviously having that conversation about getting that pin cushion up there. I am going to need to use Kraye to come over and deal with this Bone Shaker, because obviously the Squire cannot do that. Because that Bone Shaker's got to go away, or I'm going to keep losing out on my points for that flag. Now that we are out of trenchers, though, it does put a much higher tax on Kraye for his allocations, because now to make sure that my jacks are having the appropriate focus to do what they need to do, I actually have to allocate now, which makes me want more engineers forever, because they're amazing. So we go through the whole process of talking about where Kraye's going to land, where is he going to be, because I don't want you to have cover against my guns, and how I'm going to make sure to still have pin cushion up on this Wrestler, because he's got to go too, because if he starts touching Cyclones, that's not good. So Squire moves up to allow me to get the potential reroll for Kraye once he moves a little bit, because I have to hard roll the pin cushion, because I want to make sure to have, or I need to, I know I boost it, but I want to make sure I have to have pin cushion up, or else this doesn't feel like it's going to happen. Kraye takes his shots against the Bone Shaker, which I pretty handily deal with in that particular regard.
Defense 12, armor 14, no problem for Kraye.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, Kraye. Rat 7, power 11 is pretty decent. And then I take my second shot into the Wrestler just because I have a second shot. Why not take it? Just to go through the contemplation of where are we going to repo to, I get myself just behind the wall there, so in case anybody else decides to try to come after me, I have that cover. And there I was just making sure I stayed out of kill box to make sure that no more victory points get bled out. So from here we go
and toe in the zone this time.
Yes. I made sure to get them in there. We went ahead and spun up. I'm doing rather well with the pincushion hits, only going for the boosting on the damage rolls, which again were rolled obnoxiously this particular game on both sides of the table. So we're starting to get all those shots into him, boosting damage. That one was kind of lackluster, but still being a power 14 because you're a large base is very strong. Nasty damage roll there.
Yeah, dice off 5, but with pin cushion and a boost, that'll still chunk him pretty.
Feels great. And so then the first Cyclone takes him right down, and then we start looking at the table. What are we gonna do? Armor 20 Blindwater doesn't feel good. Bone Swarm sitting up there. Still under the. Trying to think about how I can save my heavies while not just, again, bleeding out a lot of points. I measure to make sure I can still see through that forest. So move up enough to be able to see. Again, spin up the guns. I got 4 shots that turn. I think I still take them into the Blindwater to get some more damage onto it, or at least attempt damage onto it. The guns -6 are kind of lackluster. Even with the boosting, it just doesn't do a ton of damage. and then I back myself up behind the forest, so you just can't charge into me.
All right, so you do score that flag again.
Yes.
I score a flag, and then nobody scores the center. So we're up to 3-4, I believe.
Yes. I think you scored the center because of Barnabas.
Oh, I did. Yeah, nothing was in that.
Yeah.
So we're 4-4 then.
Yes, I think we got up to tie right there.
All right, so I spawn another Bone Shaker, and I'm trying to see where I want to run my existed one, and contest that flag again. Name of the game is trying to score at Crawtooth while keeping your squire from scoring every turn. This Bone Shaker runs up so that he's ready after that one goes down. And then I look at your heavies. I would love to take one of them out, but they are pretty far away. I think even for a hunter's mark, that is a tall order.
Yeah, the reposition ability of Kraye on these heavies is obnoxious to making sure they can just do what they need to do and stay safe.
Repo 5 on a Cyclone, fantastic.
Yeah, Repo 5, which is its own speed base.
So my Crockpot there moves up. Barnabas doesn't need the corpses really, so it rolls 2 corpses, puts it on that Bone Swarm to buff his armor from 15 to 17. And then my Bone Swarm does a quick little rile and runs up to engage both of your heavies. Because I know that your Unstoppable card has been used, so you have to either deal with him or not shoot something else. And then my Blindwater gets ready to do whatever he's going to do. He wants to, protect Barnabas. But I mean, you got 2 Cyclones. If you can deal with that Bone Swarm, you're going to do something. So I want him to be the target rather than my Warlock.
Yeah, I think the name of the, like you said, the name of the game right here was protect Barnabas from just randomly getting looked at funny.
Mm-hmm.
While still making sure that while still not losing out on any more scenario.
It was kind of an interesting reversal. Like, very first turn, I just moved Barnabas as far forward as possible with 0 worries. And then as the game goes on, he's like hiding behind a hut.
Right. Well, on top of the other funny thing is that I was so far up the board on that first turn, and now I have so much speed and maneuverability that I'm back in my own deployment area because I'm trying to stay safe. So it's really funny and actually speaks a lot to how fast Kraye Jacks are, especially those that have that ranged capability that they can just shoot, back up, shoot, back up.
So I end up scoring 2, and I keep you from scoring, and now it is 6-4.
Yep. So from here, it's definitely a dangerous position because I'm in the spacing of that the Blindwalker is still going to be able to deal with my heavies for the most part. And what am I going to do with Kraye? So we're kind of looking at this. I look up on, we talk about the throw rule and how I'm supposed to do it appropriately. I think we initially do it kind of weird because I was assuming it off of an old edition where I can declare what I want to throw at, but the rule is now that if I'm throwing, it's directly away from myself, so I need to do it in, so we kind of walk ourselves through it appropriately, that at some point after allocation and deciding, I pull the top Cyclone down behind the Bone Swarm to try to chuck it out of there.
Yeah, throw is very much like a slam now in that it's it's straight away.
Yeah.
It does have the advantage that slam you have to go straight line center to center, and a throw you do have that freedom to position so that you can still kind of get it where you want it.
Yeah. So Kraye went first, had to get the pin cushion on the Blindwalker. In no scenario, if I don't have pin cushion up, am I going to even be able to contemplate dealing with that thing? So we go ahead and deal with that. Kraye go ahead and then walks over. We got, again, dealing with Bone Shakers, taking some shots, easily dealing with him, and then repoing ourselves back into appropriate position because now Kraye has to be the one to deal with the flag, which puts him in a very obvious position for the rest of the game because if I leave this flag, I'm just immediately bleeding points, which is not good, so he's got to stay.
Yeah, we forgot to mention last turn that Blindwater, part of why it moved so far up, Barnabas arced his spell through it with telemetry and pegged it off that flag.
Oh yeah, and pulled off the squire. Yes, absolutely. So from here, I think this is where I'm boosting to try to throw. This is where the actual conversation of the throw is occurring. Because I'm like, no, I want this guy over there. I want to throw him into Blindwalker. I want them to touch each other. He looks like he wants a hug. It's right there.
Well, what's the mat on those cyclones? Is it 6?
They are 6, I believe.
Yeah, so
if I'm going off the top of my head.
They have to hit a 7 to do the base. Yeah,
Matt's
13.
Yeah, Matt 6, Rat 7.
Yeah, boost for safety, but you hit.
Yes. So now we're doing it appropriately. I'm boosting. I use the power attack, and I throw you an inch.
Heartbreaking.
It's a heart because now both of my cyclones are still engaged, because of how that worked out, and it definitely deflated my balloon a little bit. And then we rolled out the collateral damage from taking that hit.
Bone Swarm is steady.
Yep.
There's a nice little perk to that.
Yep. So then I was forced to stop that activation, and then go into having my second cyclone attempt to deal with the Bone Swarm. So starting off, I kind of was at the point that I was like, all right, I just got to hard roll this because I need my focus in my guns. So it was kind of I really hope this works out. But again, with this whole thing of we're rolling like 9s, 10s, and 11s the whole game, I was actually able to deal with the Bone Swarm in 3 attacks. I did have to use a focus to buy a 3rd melee attack, but I was able to do it. From there, we got into the guns, spun up, and was taking our shots. Again, Pincushion with Volume Fire together is ridiculous. Also, 2 5s and a 6 really help out. Apparently.
Yeah, this Cyclone has a hell of an activation. He takes out 2 Warbees by himself.
Yeah, so and then a 6/6/5. The dice were out of control completely in dealing with this, and I just needed to hard roll a really decent one. And I mean, dealing with a armor 20 is really good. From here, we kind of I repo back to get on my flag, but can kind of talk about it. We're looking at it. I'm like, yeah, but is the victory points work out in a favor that I'm going to be okay? How is this going to kind of work out over here? But then I find out that I'm not even able to repo that 5 inches into the zone realistically without just being killed. So I repoed behind it, and yeah, so we're pre-measuring, making sure I'm not in certain ranges of certain things, on how, because then this is where we're measuring that pull to see if you could pull me through because you have eyeless sight. But then we were like, oh wait, it doesn't matter because it's a forest.
Yeah.
So then I just make sure to stay within control.
So you score 1, I score 2. It goes up to 8-5, I believe.
Yes, it went 8-5.
So I move a Bone Shaker up, contest that flag, end game.
All right, good game, guys. I would like to thank Gonzo from Warfare Weekend and the More Than Dice guys for providing us our flags. Do you guys just want to talk about how that game went? What you guys felt was different between what you've been playing and how
I do know me
going?
and Rick both walked away from that game having had an absolute blast. Barnabas and Kraye was so much fun.
It was an outstanding. It's probably one of the better games I've ever played within Warmachine, in just the back and forth and seeing the fun of a lot of the new ways of different things. I know listen, I'm a Signar fanboy. I can't help it. I'm so sorry. But seeing Speed 8 lights, Speed 7 heavies is like a dream come
It was so
true.
fun.
With
They give Kraye a lot of tools.
with guns,
Say that
with
right now.
guns, and it's a beautiful thing, and I love it, and I hope everyone likes to see it a lot because that's what I'm gonna do.
Kraye just walks onto the battlefield. What if robots was horses?
What if they just keep going? Where? Just go.
This was actually probably the best game I've seen from a scenario perspective. A lot of the new scenarios I've seen so far have been very low scoring. This one actually had, Erica made sure to put a flag on top of a building.
Yes.
So that made things a little bit awkward. What did you guys feel about
The
that?
elevation was really fun. I very much enjoyed having that platform with ladders on 3 sides. It made it feel very dynamic, but also very accessible.
I really want to put Triumph on top of it. that feels like it's okay. I don't know, but that might just be me.
You need to draw me a diagram of how he climbs the ladder.
Do you see him? He just puts one gun in the ladder slot. He puts the shield on the other, and he just lifts himself up.
He just uses the gun as a jetpack.
Exactly.
So this actually made me really look forward. Hopefully we get a cool Steamroller packet coming up very soon. Is there anything from this game specifically that you would suggest for that packet?
I did enjoy that we used the lift rules for the ladders. I know a lot of people, when looking at the new elevation elements in the 3D terrain, the rules for ladders, as they're spelled out, quote-unquote ladders, can be a little kind of like rough terrain used to be. You know, rough terrain was a lot of measuring and having different values. Whereas rough terrain now, we didn't really run into it, but you just lose 2 inches off your movement. It's very quick, it's very clean. And I think if you're using elevation with ladders, that using the lift rules, as we did in this game, it keeps that spirit of the changes they made. It's easy, it's simple, it's clean, it keeps the game moving.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, the fluidness of being able to just say, okay, it's an inch here, inch there, and just call it a day from there to keep gameplay going feels a lot better than having to go all kinds of crazy with measuring up, down, left, right, got a hold start. It's
As someone who complained a little bit about the teleporting units so far, I think a portal at the bottom of the ladder and a portal at the top of the ladder kind of makes the most sense for just ease of play.
Yes, absolutely. And speaking of units, I need to speak up about these Gatormen when they decided to come over after me. I forgot. They did. I forgot that because one of them is in range, it means all of them are. And I definitely peed a little. And they ended up on that side of the board because I forgot that they all teleport in that moment.
Yeah, this was a very low unit game, but we did have that one showcase of the new movement.
Yes. I have since learned that that rule is very useful when I am proxying out my Storm Legion moving around, and those mechanics with that particular move is super good, and I love it. And at the same time, I'm terrified of it because Gatorman Posse are very fast and will touch you, and it's not fun.
Well, this is probably the first game that we've had that we have a planned planned sequel for. We're gonna get a futuristic battle. Rick, I think you're preparing some Storm Legion.
Oh yeah, no, don't worry. Storm Legion's coming, and they're going to be guns.
Signar won't stop, I guess, invading the swamp.
Can't stop, won't stop. Nope, not going to happen.
Coming this fall, just when the Gators thought they found peace.
Well, see, what happened was there was a log out there, and it looked like a gun, and I needed to get it. That's my story, and Kraye is sticking to it.
All right, well, thanks for playing, guys. Any final words?
Just thanks for the game, Rick. This was a blast. I had so much fun, and I very much look forward to the sequel.
Oh, this was a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful game. I loved every second of it, and I cannot wait for the sequel where I stop forgetting about scenario.
Anyone out there who's hesitant about the changes from 3 to 4, it's still Warmachine. It's still a ton of fun. If you're looking at some of these changes and you're not really sure what to think about it, give it a try because it's great. Warmachine is Warmachine, and it's still fantastic. And we hope to see you on the field.
Absolutely. I'll say that for anyone that, again, like if you're skeptical about the rules, actually playing the rules and seeing how the interactions happen on the table is a game changer than just reading the rules to see how this stuff happens. Actually playing it out changed a lot of my own personal perspective on a lot of this stuff, and it's still a fantastic game.
All right, well, if you made it this far, thanks for watching. See you next time on Tried and True.
Thank you for watching. If you would like to check out some additional content, including the original video and audio of our battle reports to support the channel, please click our Patreon link in the video description below. If there are any factions, warcasters, or warlocks you would like to see on the channel, please let us know in the comments. And as always, see you on the next Tried and True Battle Report.